This is me surfing for the very first time last year in Costa Rica. I shouldn't actually say surfing, it was more like drowning. And this is me now. I'm gonna show you how I got to this point step by step. All the mistakes I made along the way and what surfboard you should get if you're just starting out and so much more. So come along for the ride. February 2024 was the first time I ever stood up on a surfboard. I almost bonked my head. I was 21 years old and everything I saw online basically told me that I was way too old to start learning how to surf, which meant making my childhood dream of becoming Cody Maverick from Surf's Up an impossible reality. But I was determined to prove everyone wrong. I was obviously horrible and could only catch whitewater, but I was smart, super big brains, and I took a surf lesson for the very first time, which I definitely recommend if you're first learning how to surf, because they'll push you into the wave and you'll stand up. Trust me, it's worth it. Then I proceeded to surf every single day for the next 3 weeks that I had in Costa Rica. I even ended up seeing a crocodile in the lineup when I was surfing alone at sunset. Horrible idea. Don't do that. It was also after a rainstorm. I don't know what I was thinking. That was the last time I went surfing in Costa Rica. Fast forward all the way to September, and I bought my first surfboard, a $50 Jerry Lopez foam top off Facebook Marketplace. I still love this thing. I gave it to my brother so he could learn how to surf, and I recommend a foam surfboard because you're not gonna hurt yourself or anyone else in the lineup if you run into them. They're super cheap. It's an easy way to get into surfing, and it has a ton of volume, so it's super easy to pack. My Jerry Lopez was perfect to start out on because I started catching small waves and going out every single day. I didn't record a lot of this process, but just imagine a lot of failure and almost giving up. I feel like that's a pretty common storyline for anyone first learning how to surf. I started being able to ride the face of the wave, front and backside, instead of just riding the white water, which is a super important step and feels so good. Once I got super comfortable and confident on the soft top, I felt like it was time for an upgrade, which is when I purchased my very first shortboard. It was this $60 TNC board I got off Facebook Marketplace. I know this thing back in the day was definitely all white. It's all yellowed because of years in the sun. You can tell it's beat up. Gave this thing the nickname the Twinkie. It looks like a Twinkie. As much as I love this board, it was my first mistake of many in my surf journey. You see, it's 6'4", and obviously I'm not 6'4", staying in at a whopping 5'8", which means for me, this board is most likely a step up. Super difficult for a beginner trying to learn. Probably the worst board I could have chosen to learn on just because of how difficult it is. That being said, I love my Twinkie. Shout out Glenn Pang, shout out TNC. I love this thing. I want to make a whole video bringing this back and absolutely ripping with it. So hopefully by watching this video, you're learning from my mistakes. Later in the video, I'm going to show you my recommendations for your first shortboard, which I have in my quiver, but I'll save that for later because we got to get into my very first YouTube video.
Next time that I get up, I'ma tell her in every kind of way. I would walk through burning fire, even if your kiss could kill me. You know I would die.
I was out surfing almost every day from September until March before I even posted my first video to this channel. And then in March of 2025, literally only 6 months ago, I decided to press publish on my very first YouTube video. I was trying my best to surf the Twinkie, but without enough leaders and in very small winter waves on the south shore of Oahu, I was definitely struggling. But I mean, hey, at least I was able to make it down the line and pump a little front side. Anyway, let's go to April 19th when I posted my second ever surf video, which actually kind of blew up almost instantly, which was insane. I've literally been making YouTube videos for almost like 10 years. I was making travel videos before this that couldn't break like 500 views, so wasn't expecting to get so many eyes on my surfing so soon in my journey. Got a lot of reactions in the comment section. I started documenting my surfing because I wanted to watch it back after the session and see what I could improve on, and obviously I also love making YouTube videos. And I will say that I attribute that as my #1 reason my surfing has improved so much, is because I'm able to watch back the footage, see what I can work on, and see what areas I'm like pretty bad at. Recently, in one of my videos, I saw myself in the third person surfing for the very first time on the Surfline Cam Rewind, and I look stiff as hell. So being able to watch that back is like, okay, you know what? I just need to I need to loosen up. Swing my arms. Oh. Apparently I needed that. Whop, whop. If you have a Surfline Cam Rewind, go find your clips or bring a GoPro out and honestly, just watch it. Super helpful. But this video was the first time I decided to paddle out when the forecast called for 4 to 6 foot faces. I was absolutely pooping my pants. And guys, also, yes, thank you so much for your thousands of comments. I know 4 to 6 foot faces doesn't mean Hawaiian scale. 6 foot sounds better in the title, okay? It was super intimidating, but I managed to catch one of the best waves I've ever caught in my entire life. If I had been able to cut back at the end of that wave, oh, that could have been so good. But anyway, it felt amazing. It was a pretty steep drop and I was freaking out, stoked out of my brain. So obviously I pressed publish and the rest is history. My next video was at the end of April and I bought another surfboard. It was another one off Facebook Marketplace. Unfortunately, it did happen to be my second mistake I made in my surfing journey. I made a lot of mistakes, guys, and that's why I'm telling you about all of them so that you don't have to make them too. This is my beautiful 6'1" Paizel Ghost. I absolutely love this board, but guess what? It's another step up. That means it's meant for big, heavy waves. This is what John rides at Pipe, Haleiwa, Sunset. So it's definitely not made for the tiny, like 3 foot face waves I was taking it on. But that's okay. I still absolutely love this board and I'm gonna be taking it out to the North Shore this winter, pushing myself in some bigger waves. But yeah, don't buy a step up, guys. A lot of this information is honestly so jarring when you're first learning how to surf and it's like, oh, what surfboard do I get? You know, how many liters, like what dimensions, all this stuff, and you don't know what a step up, a groveler, like high performance versus something else. All this information is just a lot. And you know, I see this on Facebook Marketplace and it's literally a third of the regular price. It was super cheap for how good of condition it was in. And on this board, I was able to catch one of the glassiest waves I have ever caught and definitely my best wave up until that point. I pumped down the line and I was even able to do a little cutback at the end section. Honestly, the only thing I could attribute that to was a lot of practice. I was going out almost every single day, watching back my footage and watching surf tutorials on YouTube, plus just studying pro surfers. This is something the best surfers in the world do on a daily basis, is watching clips of surfers that they look up on the WSL. The pro circuit was going on. I was watching that. Shout out Yago. Literally, my whole feed is surfing. I live, eat, breathe surfing.
My life be like.
That's me. But I mean, it's the only way to learn. It's like by watching the pros, you can learn the correct form and how the maneuvers are actually supposed to look. I mean, these guys are the best in the world. And luckily with YouTube, all of that information is out there for free. Go watch some surf videos. My next video was on May 14th. The waves were super messy and so I didn't really catch anything memorable, but I continue to work on my skills, like my pop-up, which is another question I get all the time. How do you improve your pop-up? Again, guys, I've only been surfing for a year. I don't know why you're asking me all these questions. Go watch a professional surfer surf tutorial on YouTube. I'm gonna give you some advice that you should take with a lot of grains of salt.
That's not the saying, a lot of grains.
I know, but just a grain of salt, but I'm like saying like,
Oh, that's a joke.
yeah, a lot of salt, because if I have to explain the joke, it's not a good joke. When everybody learns how to surf, they start by going to their knees and then popping up, which obviously takes way too much time. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Especially the wave, which is why you're gonna get knocked off. So I've watched a ton of tutorials on the best way to pop up. You can kind of do like the, what is this? Like the snake? What's this pose in yoga? Cobra. You could do the cobra as you're like looking down the line and angle yourself in the way that you want to surf the wave. Little cobra action, and then boom, boom, you're surfing. I'm light as a feather on my feet. Call that the cobra pop-up. Bruh. Now I'm hot after that one. Anyway, go watch some pop-up tutorials on YouTube. Just gotta practice, like I was just doing there.
Just take a break.
Oh, I'm out of breath. You should be able to pop up every single time, no problem. Next time I posted a video was at the end of May and I went to the North Shore to surf for the very first time. I was pooping my pants. The North Shore is one of the most intimidating places to surf on planet Earth. Localism, people in the water, sharks in the water. I'm just kidding, there's sharks everywhere. I managed to paddle out anyway, paddle to the shoulder of the wave and just try to catch whatever crumbs were left over from the guys who are super good at surfing, which is another thing that you guys should learn when surfing is etiquette. Yes, it's like knife and fork, but it's just being nice to people. okay? Don't burn, be nice, say hello. And if you're going to a lineup for the very first time, don't paddle super deep to the peak and start taking everyone's waves. I mean, come on. Common sense. Common sense. I think Surfline has a whole thing about etiquette and how you can learn surfing etiquette. So the resources are out there, guys. You just gotta get to studying, okay? It's time to go back to school. Then in June, I went on my very first ever surf trip to Bali, Indonesia. One of the best waves in the world, Uluwatu. I will be reliving that surf trip for the rest of my life. It wasn't actually a surf trip. My girlfriend and I had already been planning to go there for years, but turns out it happens to be one of the best waves in the world. And I made use of that. That's right, I brought my surfboard all the way to Bali, my Ghost Step Up, and this board was actually perfect for Uluwatu. It was definitely some bigger, heavier waves. And in Bali, all of the waves are left breaking, probably 90% of them. Don't quote me on that statistic. And unfortunately, up until this point, I made another mistake. I made another whoopsie. I just keep making them. I didn't practice on my backside enough. This will come to bite you in the butt later in your surfing journey. So learn how to surf backside, just as important as surfing frontside. I definitely learned a lot in Uluwatu, and I'm super happy that I paddled out. I literally caught one of the best backside waves of my entire life. Pulled off two little snaps, quick little snaps, boom. Boom. Going to new spots is super important if you want to progress your surfing. You don't have to go to Bali. You can literally go to the wave down the road, just not your home break. Going to a new wave means you have to learn the lineup, learn how to paddle out, learn where the wave breaks, and all of this teaches you about the ocean and how to ride different waves. Get out of your comfort zone. Then we go to July of 2025. I was back in Hawaii, and now I'm able to confidently pop up on my board, pump down the line front side, and I'm even starting to do cutbacks on waves, which is a maneuver where you basically go in the opposite direction towards the white water in order to get back in the pocket of the wave, which is the most powerful part of the wave, so you can build up speed. I think the biggest thing I learned about surfing over the past year is that speed is the #1 most important thing. You can't do turns if you don't have speed. You can't have control if you don't have speed. Surfing is just about managing your speed. Imagine you're riding a bike. If you go super slow, you're just gonna fall over. Same thing happens on a surfboard. If you're going too slow on a wave, you're gonna fall over. So it's all about managing how fast you go. Thanks for the metaphor. The end of July, I posted a video surfing every single board I owned at the time. I bought a longboard hardtop, which I'm actually super happy I purchased because I take it out all the time when the waves are super small. Longboarding has really helped my balance in trying to cross step and get to the end of the board as much as I can, which directly links back to shortboarding. So I definitely recommend it on some small dives.
Howdy, stranger.
Pick up a longboard, hardtop, if you made it past the foam board. At this point, I'm confident on the shortboard, but I'm craving bigger size waves, which takes me to my next video after the mini tsunami that hit Hawaii, which is a whole other story. You should just go watch that video. I started going over to Ala Moana in Honolulu, which is more of an intermediate break. And there happened to be some sizable summer waves, so I really started getting comfortable in bigger-ish waves for me. Which reminds me, an important tip that I wish I had known is that where you surf matters just as much as what you're surfing on. There are beginner breaks, intermediate breaks, advanced breaks, expert breaks, unlimited levels of breaks and difficulties, so know what you're getting into before you paddle into the water. Surfline is the app I use to check the surf forecast and has a helpful guide for most surf spots that has a ton of information that you should know before paddling out. August, I stayed consistent and started working on doing bottom turns and carves for the very first time. And I even attempted hitting the lip, something that I'm still working on right now. I mean, that was only like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. The waves were absolutely pumping and actually terrifying on the biggest day of swell here in town. If you haven't already, you should definitely watch the full video. That was one of the scariest experiences of my entire life, but so worth it. I went over to Diamond Head when the forecast said there was 8-foot wave faces, and I got absolutely demolished. I don't think I was quite ready for that, but who knows? maybe this winter on the North Shore, I'll push myself into some bigger waves. Which reminds me about another thing that people constantly ask me about is how do you get over your fear of bigger waves? I think you never really get over the fear, but how you get comfortable in bigger waves is by slowly surfing bigger and bigger and bigger waves. Also, as much as it's important to learn how to surf, it's important to learn how to fall. The correct method, and you know, when you're getting pounded, like curling up, protecting your head and working on your breath holds so that you don't drown. Respecting the ocean is the #1 most important thing. Every single winter, professional surfers at Pipe break their back, get seriously injured. The ocean is humbling, so never go out with an ego either. September of 2025, I really started working on my maneuvers, pumping down the line, cutbacks, bottom turns, carves, trying to hit the lip, floaters, and even trying to do a tiny little snap, though I haven't been able to do that yet. I've been learning how to do all these things through YouTube tutorials and watching the pros surf, like I said before. Studying their moves and breaking down my own footage to see where I need to improve. It honestly feels so cool to be able to control my board and how I move when I'm surfing down the wave, and I know that it's only gonna get better from here. At this point, I'm able to pop up consistently on almost every wave I try to drop into, if I read the wave properly and I'm on the wave face. Pumping feels super natural, and I'm still working on getting more fluid with my motions and following through on my turns. But that finally brings me to October of 2025, present time. I just posted a video where I got barreled for the very first time. Some people think it was only my back leg that got barreled, but hey, I'll still take it. The wave was entirely curling over my head. You could kind of see it on the GoPro footage, but it was on the other side of my body. But whatever, you know what? This winter, I'm gonna beat all those barrel allegations, and I'm gonna get the fattest, juiciest barrel of all time.
What did he say?
And no one will be able to say that I didn't get barreled. So watch out for that video. I was absolutely freaking out in the moment. I instantly texted my girlfriend that I got barreled. That feeling is what gets people hooked on surfing for life. It feels like I'm one with nature. I'm one with the ocean.
Now, yeah.
What was I talking about? Oh yeah, surfing. At this point, I pull into probably 100 closeouts, and I honestly think that's the best way to practice, is to just get beat down, water up your nose, filling your entire head, and getting used to the feeling of catching rail, even if you have to bail. It also teaches you the best way to fall in a closeout is by like diving out and trying to get to the back of the wave. There's so much technique that goes into all of this stuff. I'm still learning so much. In my last video, I pulled into the meatiest closeout I've ever even attempted. I somehow caught rail, and I was standing completely up as it was curling over my head, and then boom, sucked me over the fall. Slammed down. Luckily I didn't hit the reef, but that was a way to end a session. Now, before I tell you about the future of my surfing journey, let's go back to what I would recommend to be your very first shortboard. This is my 5'6" Heisel Gremlin. It's a groveler board, which means it's specifically designed for smaller waves. Once you've gotten super comfortable on your longboard and honestly bored, and you want to transition to the shortboard, that's when I'd recommend one of these. This is a round nose modern fishtail groveler. It has that tiny little fishtail. Honestly, I'd recommend, if it's your very first groveler, a fat squash tail with a ton of liters. This has 31.6 liters, which means it has a ton of float. It's super easy to fall into the waves. I got this a couple months ago, and when the waves started getting smaller, it really helped me improve my turning and maneuvers, because these boards just are not meant for smaller waves. Now, let me show you the board that I just got. This could also be considered a groveler board, but you can ride this one honestly in waves like head high to even overhead. This is my very first custom shaped board from TNC Glenpang. It's a 5'6" retro fishtail board. I've always wanted one of these ever since I saw Jack Johnson ripping a retro 20 at Haleiwa. I haven't been able to take it out in some decent waves, but don't worry, full video review is coming out soon. Already, I absolutely love this board. It was custom made for me, so I'm super stoked on it. And that's my full quiver. This winter, I'm gonna be heading out to the North Shore to surf some bigger waves. My goals are to get a big, fat, juicy barrel, really work on my turns, and start launching buckets of water into the air. Get extremely good on my backside, and then just have fun. Because that, at the end of the day, is what surfing is all about. That's why when I was a little boy watching Surf's Up, I was dreaming of one day having the life that I have right now. I'm super grateful. Moving forward, I'm gonna continue pumping out these YouTube surf videos. I honestly love making them, and I appreciate all of you for all of the support. And if you want to support me extra, you can become a member to get access to exclusive content, early access to all of these videos, a monthly vlog that I only post for the members. It's less than a cup of coffee a month, so maybe think about it. It's the best way to support me. If you guys want to see another video like this a year from now, a 2-year progress update, like this video, comment if you just started learning how to surf or where you're at in your journey, and I'll see you in the next video.